Japan has faced numerous disasters and has gained invaluable lessons from each experience. Over the decades, it has cultivated a culture of preparedness and resilience. A prime example of this tradition, innovation, and resilience is our special keynote speaker. He is a Japanese architect whose work is recognized internationally, and his commitment to humanitarian designs and activist work is equally distinguished. He's the founder of the Voluntary Architects Network, an organization devoted to providing assistance in disaster-hit areas through architecture and provision of temporary structures. He has pioneered initiatives aimed at improving the livelihoods of individuals impacted by disasters both in Japan and across the globe. He has been awarded multiple international honors, including the Pritzker Architecture Prize, the Mother Teresa Memorial Award for Social Justice, and the Princess of Asturias Award for Concord. Please join me in welcoming our very special keynote speaker, Mr. Shigeru Ban.
Good afternoon. It's really my pleasure to be here to present my activities all over the world. I'm a practicing architect, but also I organized a voluntary team to build temporary housing and temporary shelters all over the world. Let me start my slides. 1985, I started developing structure out of recycled paper tube. Before people start talking about ecology, recycling, sustainability, so on, can we start slide? So this is an exhibition I organized in 1986 for the Finnish architect Alberto. I didn't want to use the wood because for temporary use, I didn't want to waste such a precious material after that exhibition is over. So this is a paper made of recycled paper, which was all over my studio after we finished fax roll, tracing papers, always papers should remain. I kept them to use for something else, and I used for the ceiling and the partitions. Then I started testing the material to be used for the building structure. Next, please. Then I designed my own weekend house in order to get the government permission to use such an unusual material for building structure. This was built in 1990. This is first permanent building out of recycled paper with government permission. It still exists, but I have no weekend working all over the world, so that the house is still empty. Next, please. Year 2000, already people start talking about the environment. This is the World Expo in Hanover, in Germany. The main theme of Expo was environmental issue, so that I was chosen to build Japanese pavilion. This is made of locally available paper tube. The part of the contract we made with this local company, they have to collect all the paper tube after building demolished in order to recycle again. Even I didn't want to use a concrete foundation. This building has no concrete foundation. We made a wooden box filled with sand instead of concrete. Even membrane. Normally we use the PVC membrane, but PVC is not environmentally friendly. So I made a paper membrane, waterproof, fire protected. We covered over 2,500 square meter paper tube structure. This is the biggest structure made in recycled paper tube. Next, please. 1994, east side of Africa in Rwanda, as you may remember, there was genocide. Over 2 million people became refugees. And this is refugee shelters organized by United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. And I was very surprised to see the people freezing with a blanket. And I found out during the rainy season, they couldn't keep them warm enough with this kind of poor plastic sheet shelters. So I wrote a letter to United Nations to improve this shelter condition, but I got no reply. So I had to go to Geneva headquarters of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees without any appointment. And I was very lucky to meet a German architect who was responsible for shelter construction. And that time, I was hired as a consultant because of the following reason. Originally, this is a typical refugee shelter, and the refugees have to cut the trees by themselves to make a frame, and they put the plastic sheet given by United Nations. However, over 2 million people cut the trees. This area used to be the forest, but all the trees gone, and they go much further to cut more trees. So this became very serious deforestation and the environmental problem. So that the United Nations started providing them aluminum pipes. But aluminum was very expensive material locally, so that the refugees sold them out for money to cut trees again. So this was not a good solution. So that was the timing I proposed my idea to make a shelter out of recycled paper. Next, please. So this is 3 prototypes I built in Switzerland. And also I wanted to make something more comfortable. However, because of the United Nations policy, we are not supposed to give them something too comfortable, because if that is too comfortable, they're going to stay there longer. So that I got only $50 per unit in order to stop deforestation. So this is a paper tube shelter, just it costs only $50. Next, please. Year after, 1995, in city of Kobe, Japan, we have big earthquake. Over 8,000 people were killed. And also some of the area was totally burned, fired after the earthquake. I knew there was many Vietnamese refugees gathering at the Catholic Church. And I thought that they are having more difficult time than normal Japanese victims. So I went there to look for them. And finally I found the Catholic Church. All the building was gone by destroyed by earthquake and the fire after the earthquake. And they are having morning service around the fire. And I proposed to the priest after the morning service, why don't we rebuild the temporary church out of paper tube structure? He thought I'm crazy, proposing making building out of paper after the fire, but I didn't want to give up. Next, please. Every Sunday, I took a first train to Kobe, and I got to know the Vietnamese people. They are living in the park with plastic sheet, like this kind of condition. In fine days, inside of the house shelter become over 40 degrees. In rainy days, all the floors get wet. And although that the government started making temporary housing, but Kobe is very congested, so that most of the houses, all of the houses was built outside of the city. But these Vietnamese people has only job in particular area and particular factory. If they move out from the city, they're going to lose their job. So that they want to keep living here, even such a condition. However, Japanese neighbor people try to kick them out because they are afraid this park is becoming like a slum. But they have no place to go. So that I got my student to build temporary houses with paper tube and only 10 centimeter diameter. Wall thickness is only 4 millimeter. And we are not supposed to use any permanent material concrete. So we made a foundation out of beer crates. That time, the 2 major Japanese beer company, Kirin and Asahi, was competing because Asahi make plastic beer crate red, which doesn't go with the color of the paper. So I asked Kirin to donate, and we are very disappointed. They donated, we thought that they donated beer inside the beer crate, but it's totally empty. We work with engineer to put a sandbag in order to prevent for the strong wind. This is inside, people are living there for 4 years. Next, please. Then priest trusted me to make a temporary house, temporary church. So this is only 10 meter by 15 meter. Everything made with paper tube, made by a student. This was the first morning service under the roof. And he thought that we can use only for a few years, but it was there for 10 years. Because this became symbol of the reconstruction of the Kobe, and having not only religious service, but many public services, wedding, and concert, and movie, and so on. So this was 10 years that they decided to redesign something bigger. I was very lucky to design, but also there was big earthquake in Taiwan. Next, please. And we disassemble them, send over to Taiwan, assemble again with the volunteer people. And this became permanent church and community center in Taiwan. And then I wonder, what is the definition of the temporary structure? What is the definition of the permanent structure? As you can recognize in many big cities, there is many building in concrete made by developer, but the other developer buy the land, destroy the existing building to put new one. So even the building in concrete, if building was made to make money, they are very temporary. But even building made in paper with student, if people love it, this can be permanent. This still exists in Taiwan. So this became permanent structure. Next, please. 1999 in Turkey, they had big earthquake. I was asked to make temporary houses. Everything is locally available, even paper tube and bear crate were totally donated free of charge with local manufacturer. And this is my favorite church. Children help us to put the waste paper inside of the paper tube to make more insulated. And this is how we built with local students. Next, please. Year 2001, west side of India, there was a big earthquake. I was there again to make a temporary housing. Everything available except the beer crates because nobody drink beer in this area. My local Indian architects proposed me to use a red Coca-Cola crate, but I thought that is out of context. So we made a traditional mud floor and foundation. Some of them are used as a house, some of them are used as a school. This is a photo I received last year from my local architect. This is still there, used as a local clinic. Next, please. 2008, 2 months before Beijing Olympic, they had a big earthquake, over 80,000 people killed in Sichuan district city called Chengdu. And I started preparing temporary housing, but local government didn't want any foreigner to make temporary houses. But instead, I was asked by the local elementary school master to make the temporary classrooms. So I brought my Japanese student, working with local Chinese student for 5 weeks, using locally available paper tube. We made a wooden joint, and everything was done by student. We made 9 classrooms over 500 square meters. Next, please. This is the result, and students look so happy, and this school also exists in Chengdu. Next, please. 2009, L'Aquila in Rome, near Rome, and the old city, L'Aquila, was totally destroyed by earthquake. And do you remember him? Former Prime Minister of Italy, Mr. Berlusconi. He decided to bring the G8 summit to L'Aquila. That time, Russia was part of the G8, so that it's not G7. And immediately after the earthquake, I went to there and met the mayor. He asked me to design temporary concert hall, music hall, because L'Aquila is very famous for music. They have their own philharmonic orchestra and school of music, but there are no place to play. So, and then I got a phone call from the ambassador of Japan in Rome, and he wanted to help for fundraising. So this is the fundraising conference organized with Mr. Berlusconi, with former Japanese Mr. Aso. And I'm sure Mr. Berlusconi doesn't know what he's holding. He's holding paper tube. And because of this successful conference, I got €500,000 to build, next please, temporary concert hall. Again, I didn't want to use the concrete, but it has to be very well acoustically insulated. So this is very thick wall with the scaffolding and the sandbag to make very, very acoustical insulated wall. Just because so ugly, it's just covered with red curtain. And inside is paper tube with different diameter for the acoustical reasons. Exterior paper tube is part of a structure. This is opening concert. This also still exists in L'Aquila. Next, please. Year after, 2010, Haiti, in the small island in Caribbean Ocean. Left half is Haiti, right half is the Dominican Republic. Because all the airport was closed in Port-au-Prince of Haiti, I had to fly over Santo Domingo, capital of the Dominican Republic, drove up 7 hours finding out the situation like this. And I couldn't find any material, and so that I made a team with a student in Santo Domingo and prepared a paper tube shelter to brought over to train local people to build by themselves. Next, please. Year after, north of Japan, the so-called Fukushima earthquake and tsunami nuclear problem. And sorry, this is one before. This is 2004 in Niigata. When I saw that the evacuation facility in Kobe, I knew there's no privacy between family in evacuation facilities. And I thought the privacy is very important. So 2004, in Niigata, I started making the kind of the shelter to give the privacy to each family. But the local authority who organized the evacuation facilities, they said that there's no example, and it's easier to control people without any shelter. So only few were accepted as a kind of changing room, but it was not accepted. But I did not give up. Next, please. So this is a photo of 2011 and Fukushima and the Tohoku area. Again, people stay there without any privacy. So this school was organized by physics teacher because all the mayor and the city official was killed by the tsunami. And he was so happy to make the 500 family unit with us in 1 week. So this is just small paper. Actually, you can visit the same partition was used for exhibition outside of this hall. Small diameter just inserted, hanging the fabric with a safety pin. And we visited 80 facilities, and the first 30, they rejected it. Finally, we made 2,000 units in 3 months. And this photo taken 2020 after pandemic. Because of the pandemic, the doctor told us that having this partition is very good to spreading COVID viruses. So that finally, after I spent 15 years, the Japanese government accepted this as a standard partition system for the evacuation facilities. Next, please. So after they spend 4 months, they can move to the temporary houses made by government. This is one. This is a typical one. Because of privacy, they cannot open the window. Inside is like this. And leaking, and also many areas in Tohoku was fluidized. The land was totally destroyed, and they didn't have. I expected some area doesn't have enough flat area to build government standard single-story housing. So immediately after, I designed the 3-story temporary house out of shipping container, stacked on top of each other as a checkerboard pattern. And next, please. And the city called Onagawa, they have only one baseball ground for 190 units, which was not enough for a single story, so they accepted it. And the non-concrete foundation, just steel plate, stacking the container as a checkerboard pattern. Inside is like this. And the size of the house is exactly government standard. Also, the building cost is also exactly the same as the government standard. Still, it's very comfortable, but I created a new problem because normally they can stay there only for 4 years, but nobody wants to move out. So that they have to keep for 8 years because they were really feel comfortable staying here. Next, please. Few weeks before the earthquake in Japan, there's a big earthquake in Christchurch in New Zealand. And this is the most important cathedral in Christchurch. It was totally destroyed. And also the 28 Japanese students were killed after this earthquake. And I got the email from the priest. He said, you must be the architect who can design temporary church without any fee. I said, if the temporary church is not used, not only the religious service, but the public services, I'm happy to do it. So although I'm very busy commuting the Tohoku area, but also I commuted to New Zealand. And the first thing I did is analyzing the geometry of this cathedral, finding out many rules, even including golden sections. So I used this same rule to design a new temporary concept. New cathedral. Next, please. This is the result. This is locally available paper tube in New Zealand. The ground floor is made of shipping container. So this was meant to be temporary, but this became very famous tourist destination, so that they decided to keep it. And even the cross, this is the only thing that I had to fight with the bishop. She's here. She really loves the space, but she thought making the cross out of paper was very cheap. But I told her that in Japanese, by chance, that we call kami for the paper, which by chance it also means God. So I told her that making the clothes out of paper is very lucky, and she accepted. Now she's really loved with this clothes out of paper. Thank you. Next, please. 2014, in Cebu Island in Philippines, they had a big earthquake and also typhoon. We went to there with students to build temporary housing. We used the locally available woven bamboo. And in Philippines, there is a big beer company called San Miguel, but they didn't want to donate their plastic beer crates. So finally, I had to use the red Coca-Cola crates. Next, please. Next, please. 2015, Nepal, they had a big earthquake. I went to there, and most of the building built was with brick, which is not really good for earthquake. But I didn't want to waste this brick as rubbish. So that I proposed the temporary, not temporary, permanent houses using this brick, but it has to meet Japanese earthquake standard. So this is a testing piece I did in Japan with a wooden frame filled with brick to meet the Japanese earthquake regulation. So this is the houses we built with the locally available rubbish brick filled in the frame of the wood. And also some area in higher in altitude in mountain. We also made a temporary, no, it's not temporary, it's a permanent elementary school because brick was not available. We just put the stone inside of the frame. It's also a permanent elementary school. Next, please. This is the temporary house out of paper tube structure in 4 different locations last year. First one, this was in Turkey, in Antakya, near Syrian border. In March, they had an earthquake, so we went to there, and I made this temporary house with the student from Ankara. And this is in Marrakesh, Morocco, and the same house with the local, made with local student. And this is also temporary house built in Hawaii. August last year, they had a big fire. There was a Japanese temple. They asked me to make temporary houses. Now we are under design of a temporary temple out of paper tube structure. This house was also same structure, built May last year in Suzu City, which is the most north location of the Noto peninsula. They had an earthquake, and this is the same house we built with students. But this photo was taken January 1st this year. You may know we had a much bigger earthquake in Noto peninsula, and this house was okay in May last year, but destroyed by the latest news earthquake in January. Raining on our house has no problem. So this is we prove that how strong our house is. Next, please. As you know, that the February 24th, 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine, and this is the situation of Ukrainian refugees. Over 3 million refugees were in Poland and staying in gymnasium, just like the situation after the earthquake. There are no privacy between families. So I collaborate with my friend, no, actually not only friend, I'm part of the member of a new European Bauhaus, created by President of the EU, Mrs. Van der Leyen, and we collaborate with the member in Poland and Slovakia to make a shelter, paper tube partitions, locally available paper tube. This is my Voluntary Architects Network, NGO, and building in Poland, Ukraine, Slovakia, Berlin, in Paris, like this. Next, please. Then, as you remember, Russia attacked the power station, so that I sent the firewood stove from Japan in Hokkaido, north of Japan. I found out there's very good stove, very lightweight, he can hold it, and also even they can cook with firewood. And he looks very happy receiving the fire stove, but he's injured and his house was totally destroyed by bombing. This is the first meeting with the mayor of the city of Lviv, Mr. Sadovi, west side of Ukraine. I start preparing affordable housing system with Polish students. And this is the first meeting last year in February. Next, please. So this is what we did with a Polish student. And this is a new system I call styrofoam housing system. This is styrofoam foam core, normally used for the packing inside of the cardboard or is used for the even insulation. It's very lightweight, and we just paint with glass fiber reinforced plastic, and it's a modular system. It's very lightweight. And this is not my invention. This is traditional technology to waterproof the roof, even making the middle-sized boat or even surfboard made with same technology. And just I applied this technology to make a modular housing system. We don't need any machine. And all the modular system was prepared in Poland. And we just brought over to Ukrainian review to build in one day with just students. So this is a system we try to use for the reconstruction. Because after the disaster, either man-made or the natural disaster, always contractor become very busy, and the normal building material become very expensive. So I'm trying to make the affordable housing without contractor, without using normal building materials. Next, please. This is also a project in review. This is Mayor Mr. Sadobi. He asked me to design the hospital 25,000 square meter. Because the Lviv is a city, it's the west side of Ukraine, it's rather safe. That's why there's many internal displaced people and also many injured people from the war. So that the city hospital is totally over capacity. That's why they like to make a new hospital. But also it's interesting that in Ukraine, they have biggest CLT stands for cross-laminated timber factory biggest in East Europe. They used to export to Canada, US, but now they cannot. So that he asked me to design the hospital out of this CLT locally available. But according to Ukrainian building regulations, they cannot make such a size of the building in timber. It's just like Japan. We have very strict building regulation for wood. However, if we apply building regulation of EU, we can make such a hospital in timber. As you know that the Ukraine want to be part of the EU, so that Mr. Sadobi decided to make this hospital out of CLT timber. So this is becoming first building in Ukraine built with the EU building regulation in locally available timber. So it has very many meanings. So now we are under design. This is my sketch. Try to make out of the, without using metal connections, using some locally, this is kind of the idea I got from the Ukrainian traditional building, traditional houses. So this is a hospital. Only the four corner is concrete in the stair, emergency stair, and elevator. Otherwise, everything is made of timber. Construction will start next spring. Next, please. This is the last project in Noto Peninsula again. This is the same paper log house. We proved this was very strong for the earthquake. Now, in Noto area, in Wajima lacquer craftsman and Suzu pottery craftsman, they have no place to work. So we are building the temporary, but this can be permanent, the studio for those artists. This lady, she's not an artist, but she was living in the greenhouse for a few months. But it was so cold in that area, so that we got donation to make the house for her. So now she's just got out from the greenhouse. Next, please. This is the last slide. This is also another project we are doing with the student. The Noto area is really beautiful with the timber structure and the Noto roof tiles, but they are destroyed. And normally they are destroyed by machine and become the rubbish. But there are no manufacturer anymore to continue building, making the tiles. So now with students, we are collecting them to reuse, to bring back to the original landscape and original traditional houses by collecting, before that they're destroyed by machine, we are now collecting this to the use, so to not to make rubbishes. So we need continuous support from you in Noto Peninsula that I like to continue building temporary houses or temporary structure to be, sorry, this is the last project, I forgot. This is the temporary house I'll be building in Noto. But this can be permanent. This is a permanent structure with locally available timber. Again, stacking on top of each other, stacking a checkerboard pattern. So this is the first temporary house to be used permanently in Noto Island, and we keep building them. This is much more comfortable to be used as a permanent structure. Thank you very much.